Years later, in 2021, detectives wound up getting a call from Chris Miller. Chris Miller tells detectives that he lived with both Brian and Stephanie in Nevada, and at some point, they wound up telling him that they unalived Autumn. So they decide that they're going to reopen the case and look into the investigation. Miller told detectives that he got different stories from both of them. He said that at one time Brian told him that Autumn had taken medication, the kind you're not supposed to take and not take too much of, and that's how she became unalive. But then he spoke to Stephanie one time, and Stephanie said that that's not how it happened. Stephanie said that she came home one day, walked in on Brian and Autumn smashing, and that's what happened. Brian got angry and unalived Autumn. 1 year after Chris Miller gives detectives this new information, they decide to reopen up the case. So on May 26, 2022, Brian Donnelly winds up checking himself into the hospital for a medical procedure. Now, we don't know what medical procedure, but we do know he checks himself in for a medical procedure, and things don't go well at all. As a matter of fact, they go so bad that he becomes unalive. Detectives are so eager to solve this case that they go to the state attorney's office and meet with prosecutors. It is then that they tell them all the new information they got from Chris Miller. Then they all agree that what they're going to do is they're going to offer Stephanie Freeman immunity from prosecution. They decide if they do that, Stephanie will hopefully tell them all the details and tell them the whereabouts of Autumn. On August 17, 2023, detectives met with Stephanie Freeman and gave her an immunity letter from prosecution. It was at that point that Stephanie decided she was going to be more forthcoming. She told detectives that she had walked in on Brian and Autumn smashing, and it was at that point that Brian got angry because Autumn started bringing up their age difference, the fact that he was 31 and that she was 16. Stephanie said that she was pretty sure that Brian had unalived her, but she had no idea where she was. On March 6, 2023, detectives get a surprise phone call from Stephanie Freeman. This is 6 months after she gave her immunity interview. She now calls them and says that she felt guilty, that she didn't tell them all the information, and she now reveals to detectives that she knows the whereabouts of Autumn. She tells detectives that she's pretty sure that Autumn is under the trailer. She says she knows that because when she came back after a couple of days, she noticed that there were floorboards that were missing, and some of the floorboards were miscolored. They weren't the same color as the original floorboards. So with that information, they decide that they go to a judge and they get a search warrant. Here's the actual search warrant. So now detectives go back to the scene, and here's some of the photos there. And here's a video. Here you see a backhoe that detectives were using to dig up the area where the trailer was. And that is how they discovered Autumn. Do you think if Autumn's friend Michael would have gone to the police sooner, or would have at least been a little bit more forthcoming in the beginning, Autumn would be alive today? Let me know in the comments. And remember, make sure you like and follow if you want to continue to receive these true crime stories from Gotham Scoop.